Duel Trials are back, and with 3 new decks from the latest set. Let's check them out. Hello guys, and welcome back to another cold episode. On today's episode, I wanted to talk about the Duel Trial and every single one of the decks. Now, honestly, I do like most of these decks. I think that they're fairly interesting, with one exception. Valence. Now, we're not going to talk about Valence first. First, we're going to talk about Chaos. Chaos is literally just Chaos. Like, that's actually what it's called. Chaos Witch, Shell of Chaos, etc. Right? And it mainly centers around lights and darks and just banishing lights and darks, you know? I'm a banisher light and a dark, all of that stuff. And it's honestly pretty good. Now, granted, most people think that it is a going second deck because of things like Lightning Vortex and Raigeki and stuff like that, but honestly, just setting up a Chaos Angel with it being unaffected by monster effects and can't be destroyed by battle means that your opponent basically has to hard draw like Imperm or Raigeki or something like that. It is very difficult to out just a big Chaos Angel, which is very funny. On top of that, Red Dragon Archfiend is in here, so you could also just summon that guy. Cool. But yeah, let's quickly do the explanation of the deck. Obviously, we have the powerful staples, Wyvern Burster, Collapse Serpent, stuff like that. There's also Core of Chaos as well as Shell of Chaos, which kind of synergize well together. You banish one to special summon the other, and then the other one special summons itself by being banished or something along those lines, or like they recur one or the other. It's pretty cool. Chaos Witch is also able to give you 2 tokens. All just really nice stuff. Pretty synergistic. Pretty standard stuff. It does lock you, though, by using either of these guys, it does lock you into synchro monsters specifically, so do keep that in mind. They're not exactly great outside of each other. However, all in all, still a good deck. We have things like Seals in here, we have Zombie Vampire, we have, of course, Chaos Ruler, an absolutely ban-worthy card, and then Chaos Angel. Chaos Angel is a powerhouse, and I'm going to show you that in this first duel. Let's hop over to it. Alright, so here we are going first, and we drew both Core of Chaos as well as Shell of Chaos, so I'm going to show you how those work. We're going to banish with the Core of Chaos to then special summon back that Shell of Chaos. We're then going to Synchro Summon, because we had a 2 and a 4, one a tuner, one a non-tuner, to go into Chaos Beast. Chaos Beast is then going to add back the Shell of Chaos, and now we can normal summon the level 4 light tuner, that is Chaos Mirage Dragon. This then also allows us to summon back our banished Chaos Core, or Core of Chaos, sorry. Then we're going to synchro off into, of course, the Chaos Ruler. Yeah, you kind of knew this was coming, because this guy is absolutely a powerhouse. We're going to reveal the Bigfoot, the Destrudo, Lightning Vortex, hilarious, Chaos Space, and of course, Chaos Creator, which is of course what I'm going to grab, because why would I not? Chaos Creator is fantastic. We're going to go for the Wyvern Burster here, banishing a card, and then go for the Chaos Space to cycle back that card and draw Allure of Darkness. Kind of interesting. We're going to go for that. And we draw Raiden, and, you know, it's not the greatest. We're going to go for the Destrudo here, and I decided to make it a 3, but honestly, I probably shouldn't have. I just make Shooting Riser, and then here's the thing. I have no idea, and I'm running low on time, so I have no clue what I'm actually supposed to do. This was literally my first duel with the deck, so I was a little uncertain as to what to send and what I even had in the extra deck, and I didn't really have time to go and look for things. So I just send a 4 here, because I'm like, yeah, that just seems to make sense. Like, I'm going to send Chaos Witch. I think that does something. Again, I couldn't read the card. Didn't have enough time. I could have read it before, but I didn't. Anyway, grab up the Collapse Serpent here, and now I have a useless 3 on my side of the field. He's just gonna sit there, it's fine. We're gonna go for the Chaos Archfiend, which is big. Why is he big? Because a card was banished this turn. I don't know why this is the case, but alas, here we are. We're gonna grab up the Wyvern Burster off of the Collapse Serpent, and then we can go for the Chaos Creator. Chaos Creator is then going to shuffle 2 cards back, the Collapse Serpent as well as the Chaos Mirage Dragon, and special summon out the Core of Chaos. This then allows us to use that Chaos Ruler as well as the Core of Chaos, which, by the way, Core of Chaos as well as the Shell of Chaos, I believe, is what it's called. Always banish themselves. If they're on the field, if they leave the field, they just banish themselves, which is actually fine, because honestly, fueling the banish pile is actually good in this deck, so pretty cool. Then we're gonna go for the Allure of Darkness, because I'm like, I don't know, might as well. I didn't even set the Raigeki, because I was like, I'll just find a dark, and I did. It was Chaos Emperor, and I found Chaos Space, which is funny, because we haven't actually activated the first effect of Chaos Space, which allows us to grab Levianeer. Crazy. So I'm gonna go for the activation of the Levianeer, banishing 3 darks, and ripping a card out of my opponent's hand. And then I'm just going to pass. Like, I literally can't do anything else here. But, notably, my synchro monsters are unaffected by opponent's activated monster effects, as well as my monsters can't be destroyed by battle. So I'm feeling pretty good here. I'm like, alright, it's a big board of basically unaffected bunguses that can't really be easily dealt with. My opponent's going to reveal that they are on Draco Slayer. Pretty cool. I honestly really like Draco Slayer. Pretty cool archetype. And I really want to build it. But it's damn expensive. They're going to go for the Electromite here, activate the effect of the Electromite, grab back their Luster Pendulum, which they used in order to go into the Electromite, and then draw a card and realize they can't out my board, just scooping it up. I also had Raigeki for the follow-up, which is very funny. So, good game. Alright, let's talk about Valence. Valence is literally the Yugi boomer's worst nightmare, and honestly, it's one of mine as well. Look at these cards, and tell me that there is not too much text on them. Now, in theory, it sounds pretty cool. This archetype is pretty interesting. You use the pendulum columns to special summon themselves, basically, into that same column, and then you schmoove, and you get bonus effects. That's kind of the idea. However, in practice, Dear Lanta, this is one of the most infuriating archetypes to ever exist in Yu-Gi-Oh! Because it is exactly what most Yu-Gi-Oh! Pendulum haters hate about pendulums. And they are right. It is an overly complicated deck that does a whole bunch of shit that is annoying and is impossible to read and keep up with, and it's not even good. Okay? I had to try to win with Valence 3 separate times. Now, normally, it's not that hard. But the first 2 times, I literally had no idea what was going on. It took me 3 times, reading through all of the cards, playing a literal mirror match, where I read through my own cards while they comboed off for, like, 5 minutes, for me to finally understand some of what this deck does. Okay? It's pretty simple, though. Basically, everything has the ability to, in the Pendulum Summon, or in the Pendulum Zone, special summon themselves. Some of them, as monsters, can also move other monsters to other zones, which generates additional effects. So that's kind of the idea. You generate the effects. If they move, they can fusion summon, they can go into other things, yada yada. It's fine. They're also all 1 scales. So you need to play some higher scales. I don't know why we're playing this guy. This guy sucks. But some of the other ones, high scales, you love to see it. High scales, you love to see it. Every other Valence is just a low scale. But you normally go into Beyond the Pendulum to search out the high scale, and then you Pendulum Summon. Pretty standard, okay? Overall, what do you do after that? Pray. You just pray. I really don't know what this deck, at least this version of the deck, I think in actual formatted deck, where you actually can play, like, good boss monsters that Konami doesn't want you to just randomly play, like, for example, randomly playing Zephyr Metaltron and stuff like that, or, you know, Cleaford Genius. But instead, you actually play like Apollosa, because I got a lot of monsters on my field and can't do anything with them. It was great. So, yeah, here's the deck. Hopefully you understand it. Alright, here we are going second. Now, notably, this deck does want to go first, but that's okay, because my opponent just sets 1 and passes. Just follow along, okay? Here's what we're going to do. We're going to start off here with Valence Awakening. This is going to grab up a Pendulum Scale. The Pendulum Scale is going to special summon itself, and then is going to add to the hand place of beginning. That's fine. We're then going to Pendulum Scale a second one. The Pendulum Scale is going to special summon itself and schmoove. This movement allows us to add another Pendulum. Fantastic. We're going to activate the Pendulum here. Then, because we control a water, we get to special summon it. Fantastic. Now we get to go for the boy, Electromite. Yay, everyone loves this card, right? Activate the effect of Electromite. Setting, because for some reason, I'm not playing Astrograph Sorcerer. I couldn't tell you why, but alas, here we are. Sending the Celestial Magician. That is an 8. We do need an 8 because it's a high scale. However, we don't really need it because we have 2 high scales. But it's fine. It's a good card. We're gonna Pendulum Summon, or Pendulum Scale summon itself. Then we are going to activate the effect of the Electromite, popping the the activated Kendo Spirit to grab back that Celestial Magician. We're then going to normal summon the Celestial Magician so that we can add a Pendulum during the end phase. Then we are going to activate the on-field effect to put into the spell and trap card zone as a continuous spell, not as a pendulum spell, the Valence Priestess. Do you see the problem that I have with this deck? Why is this not just a pendulum? Why does it have to now be a continuous spell? That's unnecessary. Just wild. Okay, that's fine. We're gonna bounce it to the hand. Doesn't really matter. It's fine. Beyond the Pendulum. Out it comes. Yay, fantastic. Activate the effect of the Beyond the Pendulum, searching out a monster. Doesn't really matter. I just clicked one. I genuinely couldn't tell you whether or not this is good. We're just gonna go for the Kundo Spirit and special summon out 3 additional monsters, which then allows us to bounce back the Kyundo Spirit, as well as activate the effect of the Beyond the Pendulum to pop a card. So we're going to pop a card, except we actually have to pop 2, because reasons, and they just set Chaos Mirage Dragon, and at this point I'm like, I'm not going to try to do anything else. I have enough damage on the field. Attack. Cool. That was the archetype. I wish I could tell more to you about this, but honestly, after reading through all of the cards, I don't know what this deck does. They move, in theory. And now for the cool and based Pendulum deck, Draco Slayer. Draco Slayer is everything that I wanted a Pendulum deck to be, and is actually pretty interesting. Yes, it does just kind of vomit out a whole bunch of negates, but the way that it does it is very unique, and the actual mechanics behind the Pendulums are pretty interesting. So notably, all of the Draco Slayers, or at the very least, the new Draco Slayers, have either an effect to special summon, or when they are special summoned by a Draco Slayer effect. So for example, Draco Slayer Phoenix is Pendulum support, not only for Ignites, but also for Draco Slayers, as is most of the Draco Slayer support. Most of the Draco Slayers are just generic support, right? For example, this guy is just generic support for Pendulum. You just pop a Pendulum card. I guess it's technically support, but it's not really great. And stuff like that, right? Majesty Phoenix on special summon, or on Pendulum summon, you are able to add a, add a Draco Slayer, or sorry, add a field spell, a generic field spell, any field spell, to your hand. Kind of crazy. We have Dynamite Powerload the Draco Slayer, which allows you to, with its Pendulum effect, special summon a Pendulum monster in your other Pendulum zone, or sorry, more specifically, a Draco Slayer in your other Pendulum zone, which is pretty nice to just get an additional body onto your side of the field. This guy, if it's popped, is able to special summon. On top of that, during the main phase, you can shuffle a face-up Pendulum monster to add a non-Pendulum Draco Slayer or Ignite monster from your deck to your hand, which we're only playing one, which is this guy, and in all honesty, most of the time you're not playing one, so it's surprising that we're even playing this, but it's funny. And then on top of that, we have a whole bunch of other really decent cards. Bumbuku, we have access to the Master Pendulum, the Draco Slayer, which, again, just pops a card. We have Draco Face-Off, which allows us to get a free special summon, and the Field Spell. The Field Spell is kind of crazy. If it's popped, like, for example, with Electromite, it is able to special summon from the deck, which is very cool. On top of that, if a Dragon Draco Slayer effect is activated, you can pop a card in the field, which, again, is good, because Pendulums love to pop cards, so hey, that's pretty good. And then on top of that, the last thing, we're actually playing Astrograph Sorcerer. You'll love to see it. And yeah, it's pretty standard, pretty simple, but yeah, it's actually pretty cool, the way that it functions. It actually does, like, similar things to Valence, but, like, actually well done, if that makes sense. Imagine Valence, but not as confusing nor strict in its requirements for how it specifically functions. It's still special summoning utilizing the Pendulum scales, but instead actually utilizing the Pendulums as, like, not just a holding place for monsters, but more so as, like, actual spells, which I do like. Anyway, let's just hop into the duel and show you how this deck performs. Alright, so all in all, this duel trial is honestly pretty interesting. It's not perfect, but it's pretty fun, and honestly, a lot of the, or at least most of the decks, are pretty interesting. They're not perfect, far from it, but at the very least, it was entertaining. Obviously, the loner decks are never exceptional, because they're made by Konami, but I really did enjoy playing Draco Slayer. I found it very fun. I played a whole bunch after the fact as well. Even after just getting the pack, I was like, oh, let's keep playing. This is a very fun deck. And I definitely want to build this. This is one of the few Pendulum decks that I actually thoroughly enjoy, because unlike something like Valence, this actually does some interesting things with Pendulum and executes well on it. It's not a whole bunch of text. I mean, it is. It is just an insane amount of text. It really is. But there's also just like a normal guy. He's just chilling there. He's just a normal guy. He's just a guy. So, you know, give and take. Anyway, that's going to be it for this episode. I hope that you guys did indeed enjoy. If you did, I like us very much, so appreciate it. And if you want to check out more content like this, as well as more Yu-Gi-Oh!, then just be sure to subscribe. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and remember to always stay frosty. Bye-bye. Shout out to the Frost Guard, my members. Thank you guys so much for the support, and I hope you enjoy the content.